Hey YouTube, this is Marathon Photo with a review on this Minolta SRT-101. It is a film camera and I dearly love it. It is a great camera and yes, it is very old. This was actually my dad's first SLR, which is nice to have because it's a piece of history of my family. So let's get started talking about it. Yes, it is a film camera, so you do have to do all your manual settings. But let's get about the front. Here's the timer release that will take a picture. Right here is your aperture. So if you want to actually see the aperture, you can press that. If it's not turned on, like if you don't press it after each time you take a picture, it won't show you the actual aperture. It'll just do it right when you take the picture. And then right here is your mirror lockup, just so if it's in transport you can always lock up the mirror. I have never used that for any reason. That's about it. Over here is your cable release. One of them is, I have no idea what the other one is. I have yet to figure that out because there aren't any manuals that I have found on the internet for this camera. So I've been just kind of going off what my dad remembers. So if we look at the top, here's your how many pictures you've taken, so you know how many pictures you have left on the film. Right here is your winder with your shutter, which I think is really cool. And then you have your shutter speed indicator. It can go from, has a bulb setting, which is where you, however long you hold the shutter down is however long it'll take the picture. You have it all the way from 1 up, like 1 second, all the way up to 1/1000th of a second, which is nice. And then on this style, if you pull it up, you can then turn it like this to match the film grain. So like if you have a 400 speed film or an 800, or let's see, the lowest can go is 6, the highest it can go is 6,400, which is expensive stuff. So if and it also has a shoe for a flash. I haven't found a flash that works with this specific camera. I don't think they make them anymore. I don't think anybody's selling them. So if we take a look at the bottom, we have tripod mount, the battery cover for the metering system. I haven't found a battery yet because I've tried like 10 different ones and they all look like they fit until I got them in the camera. But I've never used it. I've taken great pictures without it, and I'll put them up on the screen later. This is to turn the metering off and on, so when you're not using it, it's not metering. If we take a look at the very back, you have your viewfinder, and this little thing to tell you how fast your shutter speed needs to be, which I've never used just because it's out of date. If we pull this thing up, this is what it does all your films, or your film. We open it up. This little piece was broken off. It's supposed to stay magnetized to this thing, if you can see that, because it holds the film in place. This area, I'll turn it like this so I can hold it. This area is where the film goes in, and where actually this is where the film goes in, and you press this little button down when the film is in, and then you wrap it around over into here, and when you pull this thing, it'll take the picture. Now I'll show you. That was too fast, but I'll turn on bulb so you can see this. But see, now you can see all the way through. And this part is in actually amazing condition. The only problem with this camera overall, besides this little piece being broken off, which isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it just takes 5 seconds to put back on, and you know, I don't really care. My dad actually sold this model when he was a long time ago, but then he remembered the serial number on it, and I actually tracked it down, and somebody was selling that camera, specifically that camera with the same serial number, for $50 on eBay, and I was so happy. The only problem is it has a little ding right here, but that's about it. And besides that, it's in perfect condition. Now, when I bought this, I bought it with a lens. Came with it. It's a Rocore, is that how you say it? 200 millimeter. It is a single focal length, so it doesn't go more than 200. I take the lens off. The only problem with it was that it had just a little bit of dust on the inside, which doesn't really show up on the pictures, but you can see how nice that is. And if I turn the aperture all the way, you can see it in the inside like that. It has a very nice aperture range. Goes from 3.5 to 22. This whole back section is the focal length, or not the focal, the focusing, and it has, you can do so many fine, and when I say fine, I mean really fine adjustments with this focus. Because as you can see, just a focus from infinity all the way to its closest. See how long this takes? That's how fine it gets when you're adjusting it. It has a full metal back, which is great. The whole thing is full metal, which is great because most lenses today are made out of plastic and sometimes has a little bit of metal in it. But this thing is full metal. It is actually it's kind of a heavy lens. I never take this on trips or anything like that, just because, unless it's a special trip, just because film gets expensive, developing is expensive. I am about to start making a, a dark room. Anybody has any suggestions, please leave a comment below. This is Marathon Photo with a review on the Minolta SRT-101. Please leave comments below. If you need to know where to buy it, just ask me on the comments. See you next time. Marathon Photo. Check me out.